Good morning, everyone. We are moving on to Act 3, Scene 3 of The Tempest. And if you see, I'm doing it slightly differently. What I'm going to do is the first part of Act 3, Scene 3. As it clear from the board in front of you, I've divided Act 3, Scene 3 into three parts. So let us do the first and second parts in this lesson. Now, why do I take the first part separately? Because I feel that is establishing mm, the kind of mood that the people, the main characters of this scene are feeling. And when we are looking at this scene, I have the text in front of me here. You have Alonso, Sebastian, Antonio, Gonzalo, Adrian, Francisco, and a few other lords who come in, right? So in the first part, what I've written is there's an air of exhaustion and futility. Exhaustion and futility, what does that highlight? It highlights that they're tired. And you know that from the very beginning, ever since they've come onto the island, they've been concerned about looking for Ferdinand to find out whether Ferdinand is alive or not. And that's why they are roaming the island helter skelter, right? So there's that exhaustion, and probably at this point in time, by the time we reach Act 3, Scene 3, they feel that, like I've written, this futile search, because Alonso is certain that he's lost his son forever. Gonzalo's spirit is also waning. He says, if the way it opens, he says, I swear, I cannot go any further. I'm tired. I pray thee, let us rest here a bit. And even Alonso says the same thing, that I cannot blame you, Gonzalo, because even my bones are aching. I am tired. And the tiredness is not just physical exhaustion, it is also the loss of hope. So it's a mental apathy that is set in. Totally lost hope that Ferdinand's search is going to be futile, because he says very clearly, the we are looking for Ferdinand, but I'm sure that he is dead. Uh, we are searching here on this island, he says. Yeah, he says very clearly that we are looking for him in on this island. Um, Even here, while I put off my hope, no longer for my flatterer, he's drowned, whom thus we stray to find, and the sea mocks our frustrate search on land. Let him go. So he's lost on sea, but we are looking for him here on the land, and that is a mockery. Yes, we know that he's lost in sea, and why are we looking for him here? So it is. So let us. I think we have to give up this search and continue doing what. Now you see. Now this exhaustion, if you see the little arrow coming down from exhaustion, leads the diabolic Antonio and Sebastian to try their murderous plot once again. So the minute they see that they are exhausted, what do? They immediately says that I'm so glad they are tired, says Sebastian. The minute they fall asleep, we shall again continue with our plot to kill them, which was, stopped by Ariel when he came in and sang into Gonzalo's ears and woke him up, right? So, uh, and Antonio immediately confirms, and he said, yes, the next opportunity we get, the moment everybody falls asleep out of exhaustion, we shall do the deed. And he's very clear that we have to do it this very night, because everybody's tired, everybody's exhausted. Yes, and they will not be careful. So the first part is that exhaustion part of it, that is established, the conspiracy comes back. The second part of it, the human characters are upstaged by strange shapes that lay out the banquet. The banquet is laid out by some strange creatures that come in, and suddenly they hear music, and the creatures come in laying out the banquet, which is another facet of Prospero's magic, which is spearheaded by Ariel. Yes, he's called all his spirits, and also Remember, in this scene, Prospero also enters. He's invisible just to watch what these men, who are actually the prime plotters who threw him out of Milan for the first time in 12 years. He's is coming into contact with them, yes. Um, what is the music? So they're wondering what the music is, and then they'll lay out this. Now, once the banquet is laid out, and there are different, they talk about viands, and then, the creatures are very strange. So when they see the strange creatures, the immediate reaction is, well, we do have sailors who have come back for the expeditions talking about strange shapes that they have seen with unicorns and people with the chins near their throats and their dangling ears and all the strange stories which so long we have disbelieved. Now we think that we should believe in them, yes, because such creatures do exist. That is very important, yes. And so they said that then that means the travelers actually do not lie. If I see the lines here, it is given very clearly. um, Sorry, I'm just looking for the lines. If in Naples I should report this now, would they believe me? I mean, if I tell them about these strange creatures, said Gonzalo, would they ever come to believe that I saw such islanders? For certain, these are people of the island, who, though they are a monstrous shape, yet note their manners are more gentle kind. So immediately, if you see the reactions to those spirits that come in and the banquet that is laid, what does Gonzalo say? Their manners more gentle than of our human generation. That's what he says. They are kinder than us, than some men. Isn't it true? He has seen, he has seen conspiracy. He knows the way Antonio and Sebastian have behaved on the ship. He's known about the past, how Alonso was a part of the conspiracy that overthrew the Duke of Milan, right? So he says these people are more better mannered than some of our own people, yes, humankind, yes. And uh, and Alonso is apprehensive. He has his reservation. He doesn't know for sure what this is. I cannot too much muse such shapes, such gestures, and such sound, although they want the use of tongue, of excellent dumb discourse. Yeah, it's a kind of a puppet show. I don't have. I cannot think too much about it. His thoughts are so like obsessively thinking about his son and his death and his loss, so that he said, I cannot put my mind to this. It is a kind of a show that is come up, but I don't know what it is all about. He has his reservations about it. Mm, and of course, and you see, but Gonzalo, remember, even lines 45 onwards, he says, Faith, sir, you need not fear. When we were boys, we would believe that they were mountaineers, dewlap like bulls. So he said that we did believe in certain stories that came up. So perhaps these creatures do exist. But they have laid out their food, and um, so let's enjoy it. And what is the reaction of Sebastian and Antonio? Sebastian accepts the presence. Okay, fine. They are creatures of the island. But what's important is they've kept the food for us. We are hungry. We need to eat. So let's eat. So the focus is, moved away. The moved away from the scene, moved away from the creatures. He's not even thinking about it. His need is immediate. Yes, he is uh, thinking about only the food. The food is there, let's partake of it. And Antonio would believe in the incredulous tales of sailors. He said, now I'll believe of all the stories that the sailors have told us. So let us eat. So for them, the eating is more important. And if you see the last sentence that I've written at the very end, the symbolism of eating is fundamental, not just for the communion. It has a biblical illusion. Yes, there is this entire thing about who can partake of the food that we eat, who is worthy of the food that we eat. So you see what happens. Sebastian Antonio just rushed for the food. Yes. Alonso is wary. He has his reservation. He doesn't want to eat. And Gonzalo is thinking more about the creatures and how good they are. So the symbolism of eating here is fundamental, not just for the communion, but for the worthiness to partake. Are these people fit for the food that has been laid out? Are they fit for the banquet that has been laid out for them? Right? This is the second part of the scene. And if you see at the top, what have I written? You have Prospero, invisible right there. You have his mouthpiece, Ariel, who comes in the form of the harpy, the third part, which is used, harpy, which has been used in the Renaissance as an agent of divine vengeance. So the third part, and you'll excuse me because there's a little thing that I want to do to show you what happens here. Just watch the harpy. Can you? All right, can you see this? What happens? I've just made it symbolic. The harpy comes in. You know, harpy, Ariel, who is disguised as the harpy, comes in. The banquet disappears. Yes. And the third and the most important part of this act is about to unfold in the shape of the harpy. So, part one and part two are forgotten, and the mouthpiece of Prospero Ariel comes in the form of the harpy, and the aim is for the realization of for these men of their acts of the past. So perhaps divine vengeance in the form of harpy, which has been designed by Prospero and his magic. That this is his final act, that for which he has waited for 12 long years. So the banquet disappears under the guise of the harpy. Yes. The tiredness of Alonso is forgotten. The Gonzalo's thoughts about the creatures of the island being more mild mannered than human beings, perhaps not as forgotten, but he also will see certain truths. But definitely for Sebastian and Antonio, it is shrouded under the wings of the harpy, right? So I conclude the first section of Act 3, Scene 3, the final section very soon. Till then, stay safe. Take care. Bye.